For years, the bill followed police officers through crime, danger, and survival on the streets of London. But outside that world, reality told a very different story. Over the years, several cast members faced terminal illness, heartbreaking personal struggles, and deaths that left behind more questions than answers. And once you start connecting those stories, you begin to see a pattern that feels almost impossible to ignore. Colin Tarrant as Inspector Andrew Monroe. Now we begin with Colin Tarrant, who played Andrew Monroe, the sharp, intense inspector known for his unpredictable edge and emotional depth. He was 37 years old when he became that complex officer, a man who could switch from controlled professionalism to raw intensity in seconds. And Monroe quickly became one of the most psychologically layered characters in the series. But unlike his character, Colin's real-life struggles were far more serious and far more hidden. He died at 59 years old on January 26, 2012, after being found at his home in Bristol with self-inflicted stab wounds. In April 2012, the coroner officially ruled his death a suicide, confirming what many had feared after years of private struggle with severe depression. To understand how it reached that point, you have to look at what happened after the show. Following his departure from the bill in 2002, his career became unstable, with fewer consistent roles despite appearances in shows like Holby City, Heartbeat, and Midsummer Murders. At the same time, he faced financial pressure, including difficulties linked to property and the sale of his home. Away from the screen, he also returned to teaching between acting jobs, a clear sign that work in the industry had become unpredictable. And in the final period of his life, everything converged. Depression, financial strain, and career instability built up over time, leading to a mental health crisis that went largely unseen by the public. On January 26, 2012, he took his own life at home. He was later pronounced dead at Bristol Royal Infirmary, and the case was formally ruled a suicide months later. His estimated net worth was around $1 million, significantly impacted by his late-life financial difficulties. His story remains one of the most shocking in the cast, because while his character battled crime on screen, Colin Tarrant was fighting something far more dangerous in real life. Kevin Lloyd as D.C. Alfred Tosh Lines. Next is Kevin Lloyd, who played Tosh Lines, the scruffy, overworked detective trying to support a large family while dealing with the pressure of police work. He was 39 years old when he became that struggling father figure, constantly caught between responsibility and exhaustion. And from the very beginning, Tosh stood out not because he was perfect, but because he felt painfully real. That sense of reality carried into his real life, and eventually turned into something far darker. Kevin Lloyd died at 49 years old on May 2, 1998, inside a clinic in Burton-upon-Trent after choking on his own vomit during alcohol detox treatment. Just 5 days earlier, on April 27, 1998, he had been fired from the bill for arriving too intoxicated to work. His funeral took place at St. Alkmund's Church in Duffield before cremation, marking the sudden end of a career that had once been stable and widely admired. But to understand how it reached that point, you have to go back several years earlier. In the early 1990s, his 17-month-old daughter Chloe died from meningitis, a loss that changed everything. From there, his drinking escalated into chronic alcoholism, and by 1995, his wife Leslie separated from him, blaming alcohol abuse and accusing him of violent behavior. At the same time, he was raising 7 children and trying to maintain his role on a major television show, which only increased the pressure. On set, the effects became visible: missed lines, memory problems, and growing dependence on alcohol. And once that pressure reached its limit, the ending came extremely fast. Within just 1 week, from April 27th to May 2nd, 1998, he lost his job, entered a detox clinic, left the facility to drink, returned intoxicated, and died the same day after going to sleep. 7 days marked the complete collapse of his life. His final episode aired on June 9th, 1998, more than a month after his death, meaning audiences were still watching him on screen long after he was gone. That timeline is what makes his story so shocking. Everything didn't fall apart slowly. It happened all at once. Roberta Taylor as Inspector Gina Gold. We come to Roberta Taylor, who played Gina Gold, the strict, controlled inspector known for her authority and fairness inside the police force. She was 54 years old when she became that commanding presence, leading with calm discipline rather than force. And unlike many characters, Gina Gold built respect quietly without needing to demand it. That same quiet strength followed her into real life, but it also masked a gradual decline in health. Roberta Taylor died at 76 years old on July 6, 2024, after developing pneumonia following a serious fall. She had been living with emphysema for years due to long-term smoking, which significantly weakened her lungs and made recovery extremely difficult. The official cause of death was complications from pneumonia after hospitalization. However, her struggles didn't begin with illness. They were present long before that. She was born outside of marriage and raised in a working-class household without a stable father figure, which shaped her early life and emotional resilience. As she built her career, her personal life also faced challenges, including a divorce in 1975. Later, in 2005, her memoir, Too Many Mothers, caused conflict within her own family, leading to public criticism and a breakdown in relationships during its release. And when her health finally failed, it followed a clear sequence. In 2024, she suffered a fall, was admitted to hospital, then developed pneumonia, a serious complication given her emphysema. From there, her condition deteriorated rapidly, and she passed away on July 6, 2024. The progression was direct: fall, pneumonia, respiratory failure. That continuity, from early hardship to final illness, connects her entire life story into one complete and deeply human timeline. Ben Roberts as Chief Inspector Derek Conway. We have Ben Roberts, who played Derek Conway, the calm, disciplined chief inspector who held everything together inside Sun Hill. He was 37 years old when he became that steady authority figure, the kind of leader who solved problems without raising his voice. And unlike louder characters, Conway stood out because of control, fairness, and quiet strength. That same calm presence followed him for years, until his health began to fail. Ben Roberts died at 70 years old on June 7, 2021, after battling lung cancer, a condition he had been fighting in the months leading up to his death earlier that year. He spent his final period away from the spotlight, surrounded by his wife Helen and their son, leaving behind a career that had earned him an estimated net worth of around $1.5 million. However, what makes his story different is not a sudden collapse, but a slow, silent fight. After leaving the Bill in 2002, he continued working steadily in television and film, appearing in projects like Doctors, Casualty, and later films such as Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children in 2016. Even as his career moved forward, he remained known for playing composed authority figures, rarely stepping into dramatic controversies or public struggles. And in the final stage of his life, the reality was simple and documented. In early 2021, his lung cancer worsened, limiting his ability to work and forcing him into private medical care. Over the following months, his condition deteriorated, and on June 7, 2021, he passed away. No scandal, no public breakdown, just a confirmed illness that progressed until the end. That contrast between his strong on-screen presence and a quiet, private battle is what defines his final chapter. George Rossi as D.C. Duncan Lennox. We come to George Rossi, who played Duncan Lennox, the down-to-earth, straight-talking detective who brought energy and realism to every case. He was 33 years old when he became that grounded officer, the kind of policeman who relied on instinct more than authority. And very quickly, Lennox became one of the most relatable faces in the late years of the show. That same grounded personality followed him into real life, right up until his final years. George Rossi died at 60 years old on January 5, 2022, after a battle with pancreatic cancer, a disease known for its aggressive progression. His death was confirmed by his family, who described it as the result of a long-term illness. He left behind his wife, Katrin, whom he had been married to since 1988, and their 2 children, closing a life that had remained stable and family-centered. But before that ending, his career moved through a very different path. After leaving the Bill in January 2003, he continued working steadily, appearing in series like Whitechapel and earlier in The Singing Detective, while also taking on film roles alongside actors like Liam Neeson in The Big Man. At the same time, he maintained strong ties to his Italian heritage, often returning to work in European productions. Unlike many actors, Rossi managed to keep a consistent presence without major controversy or public setbacks. And in the final chapter of his life, the shift was purely medical. In the period leading up to 2022, his health declined due to pancreatic cancer, a condition that typically advances rapidly and is often diagnosed late. Over time, his ability to work decreased, and he withdrew from public appearances. On January 5, 2022, he passed away, with the cause confirmed as cancer-related complications. His estimated net worth remained around $1 million, and his legacy was defined by consistency, stability, and the respect of those who worked with him. Graham Cole as P.C. Tony Stamp. We turn to Graham Cole, who played Tony Stamp, the loyal, streetwise police constable who became the backbone of Sun Hill. He was 32 years old when he became that dependable officer, the kind of man who knew the streets better than anyone else and never backed down. And over time, Tony Stamp didn't just stay on the show, he became its most enduring presence. That long-term stability carried directly into his real life. As of 2026, Graham Cole is 74 years old, and he remains active through charity work and public appearances connected to police and community organizations. He was awarded an OBE in 2010 for his contributions to charity, and his estimated net worth is around $5 million, reflecting a career that lasted decades without major interruption. But what makes his story stand out is the complete contrast to many of his co-stars. While others faced collapse, illness, or personal crisis, Graham Cole maintained a steady personal life, including a marriage of over 40 years to his wife Cherry. Even after leaving the Bill in 2009, he continued appearing in projects like Doctors, 2015, Holby City, 2018, and the film 23 Walks in 2020, showing no signs of disappearing from the industry. And instead of a dramatic downfall, his timeline shows something much rarer. From 1984 to 2009, he appeared in 1,202 episodes of The Bill, more than any other actor in the series. After that, he shifted his focus toward charity, supporting organizations for children, police families, and community programs. He has built a career on consistency, discipline, and longevity, which is exactly why his story stands apart from the rest. Trudy Goodwin as WPC June Ackland. Then there is Trudy Goodwin, who played June Ackland, the steady, dependable police officer who became the emotional core of Sun Hill. She was 32 years old when she became that character who stayed through decades of change while others came and went. And from 1983 until 2007, June Ackland wasn't just present. She became the longest-serving police character in television history. As of 2026, Trudy Goodwin is 75 years old with an estimated net worth of around $4 million, and she remains active through charity work and public appearances. After leaving the Bill, she continued acting, most notably in Emmerdale from 2011 to 2015, where she played Georgia Sharma for 4 years, proving she could still adapt beyond her iconic role. But the real turning point came in 2005. After more than 20 years on the same show, she made the decision to leave, stating clearly it was time to move on. That decision ended one of the longest continuous roles in British television. Then in 2010, when the bill was officially canceled, she admitted in interviews that she had been in shock, believing the show would continue indefinitely after nearly 3 decades on air. Instead of stepping away completely, she shifted direction. She took part in charity work in Nigeria through CBM, appeared on shows like Loose Women, 2009, 2010, The Weakest Link, 2007, and returned to acting with roles such as Doctors in 2021. At the same time, she maintained a stable personal life, married to Kit Jackson since 1979, raising 2 daughters including Ellie Jackson, lead singer of LaRue. And when you look at the full timeline, 1983 to 2007 on The Bill, 2011 to 2015 on Emmerdale, and continued appearances into 2021. Her story is defined by longevity backed by real milestones, showing that consistency over decades can be just as powerful as any dramatic rise or fall. Simon Rouse as DCY Jack Meadows. We come to Simon Rouse, who played Jack Meadows, the experienced, rule-bending detective known for operating in the gray areas of policing. He was 41 years old when he became that seasoned investigator, a character who balanced authority with unpredictability. And from 1992 until 2010, Meadows remained one of the most complex leadership figures in the series. That long-term role became the foundation for a career that extended far beyond the show. As of 2026, Simon Rouse is 75 years old, with an estimated net worth of around $2.5 million, and he continues acting across television and theater. After the bill ended in 2010, he appeared in Broadchurch, 2013, returned to stage in The Full Monty, 2013 to 2014, and later appeared in Doctors in 2023, showing continued relevance decades into his career. But his path was never about staying in one place. Even before the bill, he worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company and appeared in productions like Antony and Cleopatra, 1972, and 'Tis Pity She's a Whore, 1978. After the show, he moved back into theater and touring productions, including nationwide performances starting in 2013, proving his ability to shift between mediums rather than depend on a single role. At the same time, his personal life remained steady. He has been married to Anne Holloway since June 24, 1979, and built a long-term family life while maintaining his acting career. Unlike many actors tied to long-running series, he avoided career stagnation by consistently taking on new roles across different formats, including television, film, and stage for over 50 years. And when you look at his timeline, from early theater in the 1970s to The Bill, 1992 to 2010, to continued work in Broadchurch, 2013, and Doctors, 2023, it becomes clear that a career built on adaptability and continuous work can outlast fame itself. Eric Richard as Sergeant Bob Cryer. We have Eric Richard, who played Bob Cryer, the experienced principled sergeant who represented stability and leadership inside Sun Hill. He was 44 years old when he became that seasoned officer, a father-like figure who balanced authority with humanity. And from 1984 onward, Cryer became one of the longest-standing pillars of the entire series. That long career continued far beyond the show itself. As of 2026, Eric Richard is 86 years old with an estimated net worth of around $2 million, and he is still active in acting. After leaving the bill, he continued appearing in projects such as Stutterer, 2015, which won the Academy Award for Best Live Action Short Film, and Dunkirk, 2017, as well as television roles like EastEnders, 2018, and Call the Midwife, 2025. But his life also carried a tragedy that had nothing to do with his career. In December 2004, his 2-month-old grandson, Charlie Smith, became the youngest known British victim of the Indian Ocean tsunami in Sri Lanka. The child died in his father's arms when the wave struck a restaurant in Unawatuna, turning a normal family holiday into a sudden disaster that made international headlines. Even after that loss, he continued working steadily. From stage performances like A Christmas Carol in 2001 to later film and television roles, he maintained a consistent presence across decades. His ability to continue acting into his 80s, including appearances in 2025, shows a level of endurance that few actors achieve after such a long-running role. And when you look at the full timeline, 1984 to 2004 on the bill, then award-winning film work in 2015, major productions in 2017, and continued roles into 2025, his story is defined by longevity marked by both professional milestones and deeply personal loss, showing how a life can carry both success and tragedy at the same time. Jeff Stewart as P.C. Reg Hollis. We come to Jeff Stewart, who played Reg Hollis, the awkward, kind-hearted police constable who became one of the most familiar faces in Sun Hill. He was 29 years old when he became that quiet officer, a character who stayed loyal to the job while others moved on. And from 1984 to 2008, Hollis remained one of the last original figures connected to the show's earliest days. That long connection made what happened next even more shocking. As of 2026, Jeff Stewart is 71 years old, with an estimated net worth of around $1 million, and he remains active in occasional acting and public appearances. But on January 8, 2008, after being told his contract would not be renewed following 24 years on the show, he attempted suicide in the dressing room by cutting his wrists and had to be rushed to hospital. What led to that moment was the sudden loss of identity. After more than 2 decades playing the same role, he described acting as his life, and the abrupt end of his contract triggered what he later called the darkest period he had ever experienced. His removal from the show wasn't gradual, it was immediate, leaving him without the structure he had relied on since the 1980s. But his story didn't end there. In 2011, he made a comeback in the independent film Under Jacob's Ladder, where he played a German-Russian prisoner and won Best Actor at the Manhattan Film Festival. He also dramatically changed his appearance, growing long hair and a beard, distancing himself completely from the image of Reg Hollis. Years later, in July 2025, he even assisted Hampshire police officers in arresting a suspected shoplifter, an ironic moment linking his real life back to his on-screen identity. And when you follow his timeline, from 1984 to 2008 on the bill, to the suicide attempt in 2008, to the award-winning comeback in 2011, and even real-life police involvement in 2025, his story becomes one of collapse, survival, and reinvention, proving that even after the lowest point, a second chapter is still possible. Mark Wingett as D.C. Jim Carver. Turning to Mark Wingett, who played Jim Carver, the troubled but determined police officer at Sun Hill. He was just 22 years old when he started from the pilot Wooden Top. From that moment, he wasn't just part of the show. He became one of its most complicated and emotionally layered characters. By 2026, Mark Wingett is 65 years old, with an estimated net worth of around $2.2 million, and he is still active in acting and directing. After leaving the bill in 2005, following around 780 episodes, he continued working in series like EastEnders and Heartbeat, while also directing stage productions and taking on film roles such as Snow White and The Huntsman in 2012. But behind that long career was a moment that nearly destroyed his personal life. In 2003, his relationship with Sharon Martin collapsed after his long-term affair with a fire-eating circus performer was exposed publicly. The scandal didn't just damage his image, it forced a painful separation that lasted 2 years, right at the height of his career. While still appearing in major projects, his personal life was unraveling in ways the audience never saw. And yet, in a twist few expected, he managed to rebuild both his career and his family. By 2003, the couple reconciled, and he continued working steadily, balancing acting, directing, and writing, proving that even after a public scandal, a career built over 21 years on, the bill could survive, adapt, and quietly endure. Andrew Paul as P.C. Dave Quinnen. We come to Andrew Paul, who played Dave Quinnen, the intense, often unpredictable officer whose personal life on screen was as turbulent as his cases. He was just 28 years old when he joined The Bill in 1989, bringing raw energy and emotional depth that quickly made Quinnen one of the show's most dramatic and unforgettable characters. From the start, his role was never simple. It thrived on chaos, mistakes, and high-stakes consequences that kept audiences riveted. By 2026, Andrew Paul is 65 years old, with an estimated net worth of around $1.8 million, and he continues working in television, appearing in shows like Unforgotten, 2025. After leaving The Bill in the early 2000s, he maintained a steady career with notable roles in Coronation Street, Endeavour, and EastEnders, proving that he could remain relevant and in demand across decades of television, even beyond the character that made him famous. But the path behind the scenes was far from smooth. During filming, he suffered a severe back injury while performing an action scene, a trauma that required long-term treatment and slowed his career at a critical time. Meanwhile, the intense storylines he portrayed on screen, including affairs, violence, and betrayals, began to echo the physical and emotional toll he endured, blurring the boundary between his work and real life in a way few actors experience. Despite these challenges, he adapted and persevered. He carefully selected roles, adjusted his workload, and rebuilt his career step by step. At the same time, he maintained a stable personal life, married to Laura Paul since 1985, raising 3 children largely out of the public eye, balancing the pressures of a long-running television career with family responsibilities. Looking at his full journey, from a teenage actor in Bugsy Malone to 13 years on The Bill and decades of ongoing television work, Andrew Paul's story is defined not by fame or scandal, but by quiet resilience, adaptation, and survival. His life shows that enduring through pressure and hardship can be as compelling as any scripted drama. After everything, the story of the Bill cast is not just about fame, but about how life can take unexpected and sometimes heartbreaking turns long after the cameras stop rolling. Some found peace, others faced struggles no one saw coming, and a few left far too soon. So looking back now, how do we truly remember the legacy of those who tragically passed away? If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more untold stories behind the shows you thought you knew.